Hello, and welcome to another edition of It's Your City. I'm Bob Crowell, and I have the honor and privilege of being the mayor of the greatest city in Nevada, our very own state capital, Carson City. As you know, and I say every time when I come do this, every couple of weeks after a Board of Supervisors meeting, I spend a little time talking about what happened at the Board of Supervisors meeting and also things going on around Carson City. So let me start with that in today's broadcast. At the Board of Supervisors meeting, we held a moment of silence for the families, victims, and community of Newtown, Connecticut. I know that as I tape this, the state of Nevada, through our governor, also held a moment of silence that was observed throughout the nation for Newtown, Connecticut as well. And I know that all of us in our community here in Carson City share the grief that is going on in that community as a result of the tragic incident, shooting incident that happened last week. And I'm sure all of you have read Sheriff Furlong's statement on the shooting incident, and I want you to know that it's a statement that I agree with. I also wanted, at the Board of Supervisors meeting, we had a Board of Health meeting immediately. It's actually kind of during the Board of Supervisors meeting, and the Board of Health determined that it would have on one of its next agendas and part of its strategic plan issues relating to mental health and violence, including gun violence. So we're going to take a look at that through the prism of that side of the issue, through the prism of the Board of Health. On other matters at the Board of Supervisors, we went through a rather long list of property redesignations called rezoning and master plan amendments. And all that was done in order to make sure that our zoning codes and our master plan were consistent, took into account all of the federal lands that were received through the state lands bill that we've been receiving over the past 2 years here as a result of the Carson City Community Revitalization Act, where we got a lot of open space lands from both the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service. So we wanted to make sure that our zoning on that area complied with the requirements of the Land Transfer Act on the federal level. Also made sure that those lands are open. And our Open Space Committee has undertaken the task of taking a look at the management of those areas so that we can all continue to enjoy them throughout the years for generations to come. Carson City is blessed with nearly, I think it's probably even a little bit more than 6,000 acres of open space, laced with trails, some improved, some not improved, hiking and biking trails. With the acquisition of the Bentley property and the Serpa property down to the Carson River, Carson City and its residents own the riparian lands all the way from Carson City to Lyon County. Which will be a great monument and a great asset for generations to come who want to use and enjoy the great outdoors that we have here in Carson City. We are a gem in the rough, or as I call it, I guess a diamond in the rough, because on the one hand, we are the state's capital, where we're the hub of politics and a certain degree of urban life, and at the same time, we enjoy a rural interface with some of the most beautiful country in the world, including Lake Tahoe, Nevada. And so we want to make sure that we take advantage of all of the attributes of our community for, one, for our economy, but two, for our generations. We want to preserve those for generations to come so that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren can enjoy the same benefits that we do currently here today. In that regard, let me say that in terms of maintaining properties and land issues around Carson City, we reappointed Michael Drews to the Historic Resources Commission that takes a look at that commission oversees the Carson City Historic District and matters of historical significance in our community. And they have done in my view, that commission has done a remarkable job. The Historic District in Carson is now listed on the National Register of Historic Districts, which is a big step and a big advertising step, a big tourist draw for us, in addition to it's the obvious benefits of preserving our heritage that we have here in Carson City. And so my hat's off to Michael Drews and to the Historic Resources Commission for all that they do. We also reappointed Carol Brewer and Roy Trenoweth to the Shade Tree Council, two existing members of that council. The Shade Tree Council, while you sometimes don't see it, is really out there trying to making sure that there are a lot of trees in our community, particularly and healthy trees in our community, and they have a plan to make sure that we continue to grow trees in our community for not only our own benefit but for our environment. So again, my hat's off to Carol and Roy and the Shade Tree Council for all that they do to make our city a better place to live, work, and play. Let me spend a few minutes, somewhat in closing here, talking about another matter of historical significance, and that's the prison. I've talked about it on prior tapings of this show. Many of you may have read in the paper that there's some concern about what happens to that prison. There's a local group, a 501c3 nonprofit group that I can say his name. It's Myron Carpenter and Lee Radke started in order to preserve and protect that prison so that it doesn't go the way of the roundhouse, so we don't lose a historic treasure. There are two things, I think, in the larger scheme of things about the prison that we need to keep in mind. One is there's a request to include the prison on the National Historic Register, which we've had other properties in Carson City, a lot of other properties in Carson City, as I just mentioned, on the Historic Register. That is hopefully is going to get done. The state wants to make sure that they have all the bases covered as they submit that application, and they know that there are no unintended consequences. But I hope that will happen, because that's a step in recognizing the significance of that structure. And while we talk about the significance of that structure, the other critical thing is that somehow, in some way, we get the state and all the players in the state and all the local players and everybody to agree, and I think they do agree, that with the prison, it has historical significance for our state and for Carson City in particular. It also has the prehistoric footprints that are there. So it has a lot to offer. It's a large facility, and it butts up right against a working prison. So things are not easy to just say, we're going to turn this into a museum or we're going to turn it into something else, because there are a lot of twists and turns that go along with that, not to mention the cost associated with keeping upkeep of a facility. So, but the critical part here is, in addition to gaining National Historic Register significance, is to make sure that we preserve and protect that facility for generations to come. We cannot let that go the way of the roundhouse. And so we need to have a lot of thought and a lot of input on it. I agree with the governor that we need to know that all the players who have an interest in that facility get together and find a way where we can preserve the historical and archaeological benefits of that prison, not only just for our local residents, but also for tourists and filmmakers and just the enjoyment of the public for generations to come. And I have every reason to believe that we can accomplish that in our little community and in our great state of Nevada. So, and I know that Assemblyman Livermore has a bill draft request in, and we're working closely with him, or he's working closely with all the players to make sure that that we cover all the bases in trying to make sure that facility is preserved and protected. With that said, that's about what's gone on in our little community over the past 2 weeks. I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please be safe. As I tape this, I believe there's a couple major storms coming into the area. And it has been getting colder, so make sure that you keep an eye on your pipes. Make sure that you keep an eye on driving, particularly when it's very slick outside. But have a safe, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks or so. Thank you very much, and thank you again on behalf of the community for each and everything that you each do to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. Thank you again.